I'm Alanna Oswald, and what I am, who I am. I'm a mom, first and foremost. I have a special needs son who has autism and Asperger's, who's 15 and at Denfeld, and I have a daughter who's gifted and a straight A student, minus 1 B+ in foods class, which I hound her about, of course. You know, and she's at Lincoln Park, she's 13. And, you know, I've lived in the same house all my life in West Duluth, and my mom was a playground lunchroom monitor. She started working at MacArthur when I was 3, and so I've been ingrained into the system early on because I used to be able to go to work with her and you know, play on the playground with all the kids that are way older than me and that sort of stuff. So that was really fun and you know, got me into the whole what a school is all about before I had to go to school. And you know, I graduated from Denfeld in 1991.
91?
Yep, 1991. Okay. I got an all-over scholarship, and I was going to go to Scholastica until I woke up the day of in the spring of orientation, you know, that they have this welcome, you know, incoming freshman thing, and thought, I don't want to go here. I don't want to go to just 2 buildings, and right then and there I decided to go to Gustavus. I had gone to Gustavus and toured, well, I had toured there, I hadn't gone there, and then I'd gone to a Nobel conference with our science teacher at Denfeld and stuff, so it was just it was more green and more my idea of what a college was like. So I went there. I'm the daughter of, you know, of my dad who worked at Diamond Tool, an horseshoe company for 23 years and retired making $9.78 an hour after 23 and a half years when they closed. And that was, you know, so I don't have a lot of money. I don't have, you know, never came from money or anything like that. My mom, you know, obviously worked at MacArthur as a lunchroom monitor, so it's not like, you know, we did anything. Never thought I was poor, but never had anything extravagant. I went to Gustavus and I got my degree in psychology and came home because I had a ton of bills from going to Gustavus and not being wealthy. So and went right to work at the remote encoding center for the post office. And because it was right when it was opening up. Yeah. And I worked there for 8.5 years, and I quit after I had my second kid, and just, you know, daycare was a huge issue because I was working nights and afternoons and evenings, and you can't find quality daycare for working late at night, which is a huge social issue, and especially for working parents, including me. And so then I quit, and then I kind of went crazy staying home. And about a year later, one of my good friends, who was also my guidance counselor when I went to Morgan Park, Thomas Purcell, called me up, and he's like, "Hey, my friend Marianne has a job. You can work right in MacArthur, but you'll be working for Marianne, and you know, come talk to her." And I went and talked to her, and that's how I became an Americorps Vista in the school district. And
you're a what? I'm sorry.
An Americorps Vista, okay. Which is different than the current Americorps people, and you know, that are around now. They're the true North Americorps. The Americorps Vista program is completely separate in that it's volunteers in service to America, and it's kind of like the domestic Peace Corps. You know, the true North Americorps people, you know, they have to keep track of their hours and can work all sorts of other jobs and go to school. Well, when you're a Vista, you have to commit to a year. You can't work any other jobs. You can't go to school. It's like you have to live the life of poverty, even though I was married and didn't have to live exactly that life, but my paycheck paid for my childcare. That was it. So I did it just for the sake of doing something to do. So I ran the MacArthur reading program, or the Reading Partners program, and I was based at Stowe a couple days a week, so I ran that one, and I had the most volunteers ever for that program. I had more volunteers coming to read to kids at MacArthur than Grant had in their school-wide program, because I had about 170 volunteers coming to read, and most of them read with more than one student when they came, and Grant had like 145.
How many children, or what grades were your?
The Reading Partner program?
Right.
It was K6 or K5, you know.
Okay, you didn't concentrate like on third graders or second graders?
No, that was how our programs are different from Grant, is that at Grant, they wanted to cover everybody, and especially, like complete grade levels and that sort of stuff. We took all the Grant rejects because, I hate to say it that way, but they quite literally would go to Grant and say, I want to volunteer, and they'd be like, well, can you come in at 1 o'clock on Thursdays? And they'd be like, no, but I can come in on, any other time. And they'd be like, well, we can't take you. And how can you turn down a volunteer? So yeah. I mean, we were really flexible, and teachers were great. And so anyways, I guess I could fast forward through that. I'm going pretty slow.
Oh, that's all right.
While I was working with Mary Ann, she was the director of federal programs, and part of my job as a Vista was to work on parent involvement and family engagement within the schools, and that's where I began to learn a lot about Title I and Title I funding, and I started going to workshops and conferences around the state about what's the best way to do that. Also, being a Vista, we studied a lot about poverty, and having lived a working class lifestyle, I knew a lot of it, and I come from a multi-generational poverty family with more issues than you even want to know about, like most people. So I've learned to just accept people for what they can offer and who they are, and everybody has their problems.
I'm sorry, are you still at Laura McCarthy then?
No, I'm not. I'm not working currently.
Oh, okay. So from when to when were you there though?
As a Vista, I was there from 2004 to 2006.
Okay.
Yeah. Mary Ann had me working on policy writing at site levels, and then for district policies for Title I and parent involvement, and then I was working with state agencies that were MDE and those sorts of things to make sure we're complying, and then I started writing some of her application grants, and it just progressed, and I became her right hand lady, and I got to learn and work with the majority of administrators at the district at that time. So, and when I finished that, well, during this stint, I did something that pretty much just changed who I am as part of my job, is that I was assigned to help coordinate the Race, Culture, and Achievement Gap Summit. This was in October of 2005. And I had to work with numerous community agencies and that were all fighting for their own individual causes, and essentially it ended up gathering over 200 parents at Lincoln Park School for a 2-day summit to voice their issues with the school district, mostly the people of underrepresented groups, and a ton of people of color and indigenous people. So
on the achievement gap was the issue. That was
and culture and culture. Yeah, there were 8 things. There was graduation rates, dropout rates, pushing out, things that can't be documented, truancy rates. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And after those 200 parents, they voiced their concerns, and then they were able to help brainstorm what they could see as possible solutions to the problems, and we created a whole report. I created a whole report, actually. I brought it with because it's sad, but it's still relevant in that I have this entire report, and it lists all the recommendations and all the problems and everything, and quite literally none of it has really changed in 10 years, and that's the saddest part, is that it's all still relevant, and people are still just unsatisfied with either the district trying something and stopping, or not trying at all, or that sort of thing. So after this, and after all the positive feedback from the parents and their beliefs in me, and knowing that I was the one that majorly got this to put this on within the school district, I went and got my teaching license in graduate school, because I thought, well, if they feel like they're not being heard, at least I can start on the inside somehow. If I can be a part of the white culture of the school district, then I can bring up these issues while I'm in there, and work from the inside, and just slow and steady, and just try to converse and see people's attitudes, and understand why these issues exist. And the thing I didn't recognize is that after my name got branded on this, is that the district kind of saw me as knowing all of the issues of the district, and they didn't want me on the inside. So it's always kind of been a little fight in there.
Interesting.
That principals, you know, are really glad I did this, but don't want to touch me with a 10-foot pole. You know, and I can honestly understand, you know, if I'm looking at it from that perspective, why would you want somebody that, you know, that you're, you know, your employee coming in and they know the things that you do and might be second guessing your decisions, you know, that sort of stuff. You know, because I'm the kind of person that I'm not confrontational or in any respect. I just ask the word why, and nobody likes that when they don't have the answer. That's what I've learned. You know, you say, well, why? You know, could you tell me why this decision was made or why? And they don't like to, you know, have to answer. And you know, I can see that in some respect, but it's not effective. It's not effective communication. You know, it's not examining why you do things, and that's how, you know, institutionalized systems happen. And you know, you just, you know, lots of times it's like, this is just the way we've done it or whatever it is, and it may not be a good thing. Anyway, so then, you know, I subbed in the district for almost 6 years, and in, you know, pre-K to 12, because that's what they do to substitute teachers. You know, you know, the higher you go, the more of a button pusher you are. The playing, you know, play and stop and rewind in most cases, because there's still a lot of VCR tapes out there, believe it or not. And it, you know, I learned, I saw a lot of all of these issues all along, and I've been working constantly since then to work with the outside community agencies, and my biggest supporter and the best work I've done was in the Education Equity Office. I worked with Ron Hagelin, who retired a summer and a half ago or so, or 2 summers now, yeah. And I worked in his office for about 5 years, and I did everything and anything that you can think of, from grant writing and researching to staff development research to, you know, trying to organize more trainings, and I helped organize. I was on the committee to help create the integration specialists jobs and that sort of stuff, which, you know, at the time were the absolute best intervention for any of these issues there was, with the 12 integration specialists. And I was a parent involvement coordinator in the district under Ron, and I basically supported what they did. I didn't apply to be one, and you know, because they were created for people of color that to, you know, be able to relate to each other, and that was a big mistake on my part, because I found out later that Ron wanted to hire me. But yeah, it's just, I don't feel bad about it. It's just the way it happened. The district had past trainings for parents, which stands for Parents and Students Succeeding. And then we had parent trainings, and I've facilitated the most facilitation groups of parents at the area schools. We would advertise, you know, that, you know, how to help people that have issues come in and learn to advocate for their own kids. And you know, it was wildly successful for the parents that participated. It changed their lives and changed our lives too. I mean, we cried at every graduation, you know, things like that. You know, I mean, because we start out right from, you know, where's your kid at? Where do you need to go? You know, when you have these issues. And then it's not just that, but we're just facilitating because we just got the conversation and the bond with the curriculum that we use. It was amazing. We used the PK curriculum, which was cited by President Obama as one of the best curriculums to use. It's PIQE, but it's called PK. The Education Equity Office bought that curriculum for over $50,000 to invest in parents.
So you've been hugely involved. Why school board? Why now? Yeah, surely you watch the school board. Why now?
The opportunity is there for it to be different, and I believe that I have the experience to stand up for the parents and bring the voices of the parents to the table and focus on the kids. That voice has been lost. You know, a lot of the kids have become numbers in the ways that a lot of the school board has talked. You know, when they're discussing things, it's all, you know, they talk about enrollment numbers, but they forget those numbers are really kids. I want the best education possible for my own children and these parents especially, because they've been fighting for so long, and I know how to connect them and their voices to where at least their opinions are going to be heard. I can't guarantee that they're going to do anything about it, but I know that I will be there and saying that, you know, what people think and inviting people to the table that probably wouldn't have felt welcome, because a lot of people feel that they're not welcome when they don't see somebody of their same skin color or whatever at the table. But I'm an ally, and they know me and they trust me, and so I know I can be that bridge.
For parents,
yeah,
sure,
definitely, because that is my focus. That is where I'm going. It's all about the kids and parents and families, because that's where our district goes.
Sure.
If they go away, our district goes away.
but I have to ask about the school board. It's been known for its infighting, for its toxic atmosphere.
Yes.
It sounds like you want to try to return civility and discourse.
I don't like that term civility, but yeah.
You don't like civility?
I don't like the term civility,
okay.
because it implies that people are always nice, and that's not true. You know, people get angry.
Disagree, of course. Yeah.
Disagreement is not bad, and I think that's, one aspect that gets overlooked.
But you said you wanted to bring change to the school board.
Absolutely. I can't change how personalities present their arguments, but I know that their personalities right now are getting in the way of hearing their messages, and some of their messages are really good. If you take away the tones, take away everything else. Art Johnston just proposed to make the minimum wage workers make $1 more an hour than minimum wage in the district, and it would cost the district less than $30,000 to do it. And at first it was no, you should have brought this up in budget, you should have done this and this. And by the end of the debate and discussion, they were like, well, we're going to go discuss it in a committee, but that's pocket change for the district. And you're talking about the minimum wage workers, and you're talking about those minimum wage workers have families that are trying to do this and trying to make some money, and they deserve it. And one of the highlights on my Facebook campaign page I have is my mom. She worked at MacArthur in the lunchroom and on the playground, and she worked there for 11 years until she died in 1988. And one of her good friends who used to sub for her when she couldn't work took her job right then and there. And she's still working at that job 27 years later. And she just got a pay raise to $9 an hour after 27 years.
Sure.
And she's always made the exact same amount of money as anybody walking off the street. And that's ridiculous, because the district wants to have the world's best workforce. We're required to have the world's best workforce. But yet we don't value our employees. We don't, that don't have to be there, that want to be there. She obviously loves those kids, because why would you do something for 27 years for minimum wage? There should be, for God's sakes, if we can, throw them a nickel a year. Give them something to say, thank you for being here, to value your experience. You don't need to devalue people like that, especially if you're talking about wanting to help people that are in poverty, that are, or whatever. It's, hard, meaningless work or meaningless in the scope of education, but the foundation of education. If there's nobody out there to watch them or serve them food, or whatever it is, or supervising in the cafeteria, who's going to do it? So it's those kinds of things that get overlooked, and I'm very disappointed within the school district. But Art had a good reason to bring it up, and I feel it only got poo-pooed away because it came from Art. I'm not a fan of Art and Harry about everything they do and the way they do it, and some of his Art's, finger poking and that kind of stuff. It's distracting, but I know I can listen to the message and support the messages that are worthwhile. So rather than being meh, he beat me up, so I don't want to do it.
You've talked about being a voice for parents and an advocate, obviously, for the employees. let's talk about students right now and opportunities. You know, of course, the East has overcrowded classrooms, West has fewer students. As a result, gets some fewer classes, fewer opportunities. How can we try to restore balance?
They need to look at not only the geography of it, you know, East. If people in the East attendance area, if they choose to go to a different school, they don't have as many options as Denfeld does, and as many, you know, people soliciting them. In the East, you know, you can go to Marshall, you can go to 2 Hours, you go to Hermantown, you know, those kinds of things, Harbor City, whatever. But you have all of that from Denfeld, plus the Renshaw, the Proctor, the Esco, the Cloquet, the Hermantown, you know, and we have the city buses going through our streets in West Duluth, you know, from there. They don't go out all the way out east. And so what we need to do is figure out why they're leaving. And they'll, you know, the district likes to put positive PR on it and say, you know, oh, it's because of work, or it's because of childcare, or, you know, but a lot of those people are leaving because they didn't have good experiences. And we need to be honest and find out what those were and work with those people to fix it. You know, it's much more about individualized education with so many choices out there. There's so many more options, and you have to cater to the people to the individual family, honestly. If you don't give them what they want, they can go somewhere else and find what they want. The number one thing that I'm really frustrated with is all the surrounding school districts do have a 7-period day, and we don't. You know, that's a huge reason to leave. You can take on an entire other class, you know, especially for those overachievers and that sort of thing. We need to at least get it back in some capacity, even if it's just on the west side where we have that extra enrollment pull. Because if we can offer 7-period classes maybe at Denfeld, you know, a lot of those East families that, you know, will see that opportunity and can make it available will come to Denfeld. I believe that, because their child will be able to take another class and do more things that they want to do. So, you know, and that may pull some people back.
Sure.
So, you know, there are ways to do it. I think our district is definitely naive in thinking about the impact of a new high school with Edison. I know I was at the meeting that Representative Simonson had with the leaders of the 4 schools, and I was there not as a candidate. I stressed it, you know, right from the get-go. I was there because this is where I'd be anyway. I'd want to be here. I'd want to let you know what families want, and you know, the district really is undercutting is the wrong word, is underestimating what Edison's going to do. And you know, I don't know if it's to alleviate fear or whatever it is, but you know, I know Edison's planning to make the best high school possible with the best curriculum possible, and I need, in my own mind, to prepare for, you know, the what ifs. What if they are able to achieve a 90% graduation rate? Of course, families are going to be filling up that waiting list, you know, to get in there, and they're going to be bursting at the seams and adding on, and we could shrink down to nothing. So it's those kinds of issues that I want to work on, because I want to make our district where, you know, the families that don't have the opportunities and the families that don't feel that they have the choice, you know, that want to stay here, I want to make our place the place to go. Not, you know, to say Edison or anywhere else is better than us. I want to say we're better than everybody else. You can choose to go anywhere, but we know we offer what they have and then some. And we need to find ways to work out to do that. So.
Properties most famous or most visibly Central High School remain unsold in the wake of the red plan. How do you think the district could do a better job of marketing those to get them sold for the bottom line, or how do you think those properties should be reused?
Well, there's the whole debate on whether it should have closed in the first place. I do, you know, I can't even go back and forth on that because it brings up lots of bad feelings in lots of different people. To go back to the last topic, it was I'm pretty vocal about, you know, I believe that for whatever reason, if we could have had Central remain open, there wouldn't have been a need for Edison to open a high school. I don't think they would have had the pull, because right now they're filling a gap in our community, you know, with the east-west divide that, you know, neighborhood schools are what our community's been built on, and we've always wanted to go to school in our neighborhood, the school closest to us, and if Edison's the closest one to a majority of a population in an area, they're going to go there. That's the way I see it, because it's habit. It's our history, it's what we do. As far as having this big empty building on a beautiful location, I think they need to address it with the city to make sure we have a better business culture and foundation that attracts businesses. We're really good right now at attracting a lot of smaller businesses and entrepreneurs and that sort of thing, but we haven't been good at attracting bigger entities and corporations, probably because we want to maintain a small town. I don't know the history behind that necessarily. I think that they have been limited in scope. I don't know that they've advertised this outside the Midwest region. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they've looked at other options besides housing and converting it into housing. You know, my idea way beforehand when this first happened is I asked the school board members to make it a community-based place, because it's the prime example. It looks over our entire city, and it should be for the community, because that's who we are. It shouldn't be for some, you know, expensive housing or limiting access or anything like that. I saw it as a perfect place for a multi-use recreational facility, arts, culture. It's got performing space, it's got athletic space, it's got places that can be converted into great meeting rooms, those kinds of organizations that, you know, maybe they can't sell it as one big thing. Maybe, you know, just maybe we keep it and we rent out the spaces. You know, mm-hmm. there are other options to fill it while we're trying to sell it. You know, to pay the bill, so it's not just vacant and to vandalize. You know, to be vandalized, sitting up there all by itself and sneaking around. You know, it has some great athletic facilities still up there. You know, the Denfeld tennis team had to get permission to go up there and use it for tennis practice because there's no tennis space. Now they're building the courts where MacArthur is. I live right next to there, so I see it daily. And I was really sad that they had to tear down all the trees, because I was thinking it'd be so wonderful to play tennis with the trees in the shade. Yeah. But, you know, and I'm really hoping they keep to their promise that you know, this is open and available for the community to use when the district's not using it, and not fence it off and lock it up and that sort of thing. Because that was a promise to us, you know, during the Red Plan, and I expect us to be able to, you know, use that, because that was the idea of combining and pairing with the district and the Parks and Rec department and the city, and, you know, creating city-wide facilities, not just school-wide facilities. So.
Well, we need to wrap up here pretty quickly, so just in closing, why should voters support you in the primary and then again in the general, I guess? But first the primary.
The very first the primary. I want to make it through the primary, definitely. Voters, I really hope will support me, because I know that I will listen to everybody that calls me. I will explain to them, and I will point them in the right direction. I have worked through the system. I have advocated for parents with the system as it is, and gotten parents to get resolution. It's not always the best resolution, it's not always a happy resolution, but at least they know they're understood and they understand the reasonings. Might not make them happy. I can't promise happiness, you know, but I can promise that, you know, if it makes sense, you know, it's okay. If there's a resolution that doesn't make sense, I'm still gonna follow up as to why, because that's what really drives me nuts about this whole thing, is a lot of this doesn't make any sense. And if it doesn't make sense, somebody's gotta be there to ask why. And hold people accountable. From my position right now as a parent advocate and a family advocate, and my work, you know, when I work at the state level and that sort of thing, there's a disconnect between, you know, parents asking why and not, you know, not getting answers, versus a school member asking why, and your employee should have to tell you what it is. Yeah, that's an ideal world though too, because not everybody gets the same choice either. But if I get on the school board, nobody owns me. Nobody will know how I vote until I'm voting, because that's the way it is. You know, there's no bot votes in this. There's no aligning. There's there's, if it makes sense, I'll go with it, and if not, I'll ask why until it makes sense, and then I'll go for it.
Very good. Thank you
It's all
so
about the
much.
families.
Thank you.